Chair, Paul Shimsky, Member. Public Safety, Health and Welfare Committee, Chris Scarl, Chair. Mary Ellen Heeman, Vice Chair. Mark Madden, Member. Recreation, Public Parks and Buildings, Mary Ellen Heeman, Chair. Chris Scarl, Vice Chair. Dwayne Limpert, Member. And finally, Streets and Transportation Committee, Mary Gilchrist, Chair. Paul Shimsky, Vice Chair. And Chris Glassburn, Member. Is there a motion on the floor to approve the standing committees as reported out?
So moved.
Second.
The motion to approve the standing committee members as reported out made by Councilman Scarl, seconded by Councilman Glassburn. Roll call, please.
Mr. Scarl?
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn?
Yes.
Mr. Shimsky?
Yes.
Mr. Madden?
Yes.
The council standing committee members as reported out are approved by a vote of 4-0. And then last on the committee's agenda was to nominate a new president pro tempore. Is there a motion on the floor to appoint Councilman Glassburn as president pro tempore?
So moved. Second.
Motion to appoint Councilman Glassburn as president pro tempore made by Councilman Madden, seconded by Councilman Scarl. Roll call, please.
Mr. Madden?
Yes.
Mr. Scarl?
Yes.
Mr. Shimsky?
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn?
Yes.
Councilman Glassburn is appointed as president pro tempore by a vote of 4-0. The Committee of the Whole concluded at 7:20 p.m., and that'll conclude my report. Councilman Glassburn, Vice Chairman of the Building, Zoning, and Development Committee, do you have a report this evening?
On behalf of Councilman Limpert, I do, Mr. Chair. Please bear with me because I was not a member of this committee at the time this meeting happened. Building, Zoning, and Development met on December 27th from 7:03 to 7:17 p.m. Present were committee members Limpert, Madden, and Williamson. Council members Broussard, Gilchrist, Glassburn, and Scarl. The mayor, directors of law, finance, safety, service, HR, economic development, and recreation were present. Building, Zoning, and Development Committee met virtually. First on the agenda was 2023-154, which is a resolution authorizing the Director of Economic and Community Development to file an application to Cuyahoga County for grant funding for planning services for the mixed-use overlay zoning amendment at Great Northern Mall, and to enter into an agreement to accept the grant funds and declaring an emergency. Mr. Upton had noted that Cuyahoga Planning offers an annual grant program for an 80-20 match for items such as business district improvements and zoning. Administration is requesting to apply for a mixed overlay at the mall property on January 12th. Within the overlay, each project is scoped on an individual basis when they're selected, and that's even what the county says in the grant applications. The estimated cost is not more than $20,000 for the city's share and likely less. Councilwoman Heeman and Councilman Limpert inquired what the difference is between the changes in zoning and the use of an overlay. Mr. Upton noted that the overlay allows additional flexibility in zoning for the property owners to follow the zoning, but leverage additional options as part of a potential project that the city can approve or disapprove within each project proposal. Parking would be an example that could align within the scope of the project. Director Garreau noted that it would be incumbent on council to propose any adjustments to the process, but noted that these are large projects that will require a significant role from council as they occur, and that the overlay allows flexibility where going from one zoning district to another where some businesses no longer meet the code and need variances, and this will allow the city to better manage this. Committee recommended approval by a vote of 3-0, and the meeting concluded at 7:17 p.m. I believe that concludes that report.
Thank you. Councilman Scarl, Vice Chair of the Recreation, Public Parks, and Buildings Committee, do you have a report this evening?
I do, Mr. Chair, Mr. President. Recreation, Park and Buildings Committee met Wednesday, December 27th, 2023. The meeting was called to order at 7:18 p.m. Present were committee members Heeman, Scarl, and Limpert. Council members Gilchrist, Glassburn, Madden, Williamson, directors of finance, Law, Economic Development, the mayor and her special assistant, Officer Petro, and Detective Richardson, and guests. First on the agenda was 2023-152, a resolution supporting the administration's request for appropriations from the state of Ohio by and through the state's capital budget for the Old Town Hall Revitalization Project Phase 1. This is the city's Old Town Hall, is a registered national landmark and has been in disrepair for nearly a decade. Previous administration discussions for the property were to turn it into an additional office space and/or storage space. Unfortunately, those were only discussions and no initiatives were brought forward. The administration will be requesting funds in the amount of $1 million from the State of Ohio Capital Budget Fund through our State Representative Bride Sweeney. Phase 1 of the project will be to secure those funds from the State of Ohio and use them to make the basic repairs, which include, but not limited to, repair of the flooding basement, replacement of the windows, roofing, and ADA compliance items as entryway and bathrooms. These repairs will be required to be made in compliance to the requirements of the National Historic Buildings. Phase 2 of the project could include additional State of Ohio funds and/or funds from our city general budget as required in the future. A Phase 3 or completion portion of the project would be used as an event venue for community theater, public corporate events, and public entertainment/party events. Securing the funds for Phase 1 is critical in order to stop the deterioration of this very valuable historic North Olmsted Old Town Hall. Ms. Heeman made a motion to recommend 2023-152 of all of council, seconded by Mr. Scarl, and the motion passed 3-0. The second item on the agenda was a resolution supporting the administration's request for appropriations from the State of Ohio by and through the state's capital budget for the construction of tennis and pickleball courts to be located near Springvale Golf Course. The resolution 2023-153 is a proposal of 6 tennis courts and 12 pickleball courts at an estimated cost of $996,608, which again will be requested from the State of Ohio Capital Budget Fund through our State Representative Bride Sweeney. The proposal will be done in phases as the funds are received from the State of Ohio and through various grant programs.
The agenda first was -148, which considered a grant to the state for our wastewater expansion project on the south end of the city. We are applying for funds for that, and it would be a phenomenal add to the project because of inflation to cover some of that expense. That was favorably recommended 2-0 with a recommendation for suspension. Additionally on the agenda was 151, which was an RFP for a new plans examiner for the city. Additionally, our plans examiner service had been provided through a contractor, but that their staff member who did that has looked for other employment. So we need a new service to provide that service, and so hence the RFP. There was a need to make an amendment to this legislation because there was a fault with the draft document for it. So at this time, I will move to amend 2023-151 and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to amend Resolution 2023-151 made by Councilman Glassburn, seconded by Councilman Scarl. Roll call, please.
Mr. Glassburn.
Yes.
Mr. Scarl.
Yes.
Mr. Madden.
Yes.
Mr. Shimsky.
Yes.
Motion to amend Resolution 2023-151 passes by a vote of 4-0.
With that amendment to 151, again, it was favorably recommended 2-0, and that concludes my report.
Thank you. Councilman Scarl, Chairman of the Public Safety, Health, and Welfare Committee, do you have a report this evening?
I do, Mr. President. The Public Safety, Health, and Welfare Committee met virtually on Wednesday, December 27, 2023, beginning at 6:36 p.m. Present were Council President Broussard, committee members Williamson, Madden, and Glassburn, Council members Scarl, Gilchrist, Heeman, and Limpert, the mayor, the directors of law, finance, economic development, as well as the special assistant to the mayor. The committee first discussed Resolution 2023-149. It's a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract for the purchase of 50 sets of everyday Level 3 ICW armor plates from Dayton Armor LLC in the amount of $42,690. Excuse me, for the purpose of modernizing the bulletproof vests utilized by our patrol and SWAT officers within the Division of Police, and declare an emergency. The mayor advised that the new armored plates would be inserted into the current bulletproof vest. 50% of the cost will be reimbursed by the Federal Burn Memorial Grant, which the city receives every year. Officer Petro provided an explanation of how these plates are used by our officers. The committee voted 3-0 to favorably recommend the legislation to council. Lastly, the mayor, Officer Petro, and Detective Richards provided an update of the deer management program. The mayor reported that the deer management program has been in place since 2014. The city received 100 deer tags from ODNR for 2024. In past years, the first and second neighbors on each side of the calling property were notified. However, in this past year, the mayor requested that 5 properties on either side of the calling to be notified. The mayor also stated that the calling is done to protect the residents and for the health and safety of our deer population. Additionally, the ODNR asked the city to do a survey every year. The last survey was posted on the website from October 23rd, 2023 through November 15th, 2023. Additionally, the survey was again posted from December 20th, 2023 through December 27th, with the not applicable choice added. A combined total of 352 responded to the surveys. A discussion was had with regard to extending the number of residents notified on either side of the calling property and what is done with the deers that are called. The committee ended at 7:03 p.m. and that concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councilman Shimsky, Vice Chair of the Streets and Transportation Committee, do you have a report this evening?
No report at this time. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councilman Madden, Chairman of the Intergovernmental Relations Committee, do you have a report this evening?
No report, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councilman Shimsky, again, Chairman of the Environmental Control Committee, do you have a report this evening?
No report at this time. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Are there any letters or communications to come before council at this time?
No, Mr. President.
Thank you. We will now move into audience participation. Thank you for attending tonight's council meeting. Public comment offers the opportunity for members of the public to share information and bring issues and concerns to the attention of city council members. It is not a debate, and public comment speakers should not expect a back and forth exchange. Council members may, however, ask clarifying questions of the speaker, city staff, or fellow council members. Those attending city council members should show the same respect to others that they wish to have shown to them. If there is anyone in the audience who would like to address council, please come to the podium, state and spell your name and address for the clerk. If you do live in a city other than North Olmsted, please state the name of that city and proceed with your comments. You will have up to 5 minutes.
Good evening. I'm Steve Ehrman. I live on Wellesley Avenue, 5680 Wellesley. Is that sufficient?
It is. Thank you.
Okay. Well, the first thing, at 5735 Wellesley Avenue, we have a street lamp that's been has been unlit for several days or weeks, I'm not sure. So if this is an appropriate place to mention that, I'm not sure who my councilman is. So again, 5735 Wellesley. I'd like to know who wants to take credit or blame, as the case may be, for the orange towers on Brook Park Road. What, I mean, is that an artistic expression? Does it serve some need? Can anybody speak to it?
I can probably speak to it, and then if the mayor wants to add anything else. Those were installed during a previous administration, and yes, they are an artistic expression.
Okay. Kind of like street repair, orange cones are an expression as well.
Well, I don't know that the analogy is fair, but I hear you.
Well, I think if we took a poll. Speaking of art and the aesthetics of North Olmsted, I've lived here since '63, so I can appreciate a lot of the improvements. One of them being the rec center. In fact, I think last time I spoke before council was wondering why we need a bigger toy box for a previous mayor. When I grew up, we didn't have any, I didn't have a toy box myself. We didn't have a rec center. But it does lack aesthetics. If anybody's familiar with architecture, ancient architecture, the Romans, the Greeks, the Parthenon and the magnificent buildings of all of, wherever, Europe or downtown New York City, above any entranceway is usually called a frieze. It's spelled F-R-I-E-Z-E, and it's noted for its aesthetic appeal, its inspiration. What we have at the rec center currently is literally a 5-foot by 80-foot rust belt. It's literally painted the color of rust. And I know you're ready to spend $900,000 on the latest fad, pickleball.